All right, this example for Chapter 13, Section 13.1 is looking at an arithmetic sequence. We are given some information about two of the values, two of the terms in the sequence. The idea is that we're going to then find the 10th term in the sequence. So looking at what we have here with our two terms information, we're basically going to plug those into our formula, and then we'll get two equations with two unknowns that we'll have to solve, and then we can use that formula to help us find t sub 10, or the 10th term. So starting off with our second term equaling 2, the key there is that our n value is then 2. So if we look at applying the fact that we know that t sub 2 is actually 2, we'll get that 2 equals the first term in our sequence, which we do not know. And then our n value is going to be the same there. So in this case, our n value is 2, because it's the second term. And then we don't know our difference. So simplifying that, we end up getting that 2 equals t sub 1, and in this case, plus d. So there's an equation, two unknowns. So let's take a look then at t sub 5, so our fifth term being 16. Plugging that in, so t sub 5 is 16. Again, we don't know our first term, but we do know that we are looking at the fifth term, so n will be 5 times d, cleaning that up. We get that 16 equals t sub 1 plus 4d. Now from here, we need to then solve for t sub 1 and for d. So looking at my second equation here, I am just going to subtract the d over, get 2 minus d equals t sub 1, and then substitute that into the other equation for t sub 1. So with that information, we'll get that 16 equals 2 minus d plus 4d. And then subtracting the 2 over and cleaning up the right side, we get 14 equals 3d. So dividing both sides by 3, we get that 14/3 is equal to d. Now, since we have this information, we can then find t sub 1. So coming back over here, we know that 2 minus d, in this case 14/3, is equal to t sub 1. So thinking about that 2 there, I'm just going to replace it as 6/3. So we end up, in this case, getting, I believe, negative 8/3 is equal to t sub 1. So our two pieces of information, t sub 1 and d, are listed there. Now, to continue, I'm just going to erase a little bit of what I had earlier, but again, you can go back in the video to see what was there if you need to. So based on this information, we now know that our formula for t sub n is equal to our start value, our first term of negative 8/3, plus n minus 1, and then times d of 14/3. Now again, you can clean this up, but really we just want to know what t sub n, or t sub 10 is, so the 10th term. So I'm just going to go right to that, evaluating t sub 10, or the 10th term. So we look at letting n equal 10, so we get negative 8/3 plus, and again our n value here is 10, so 10 minus 1, and 14/3. So we're looking at negative 8/3 plus 9 times 14/3. Now we could simplify the right term here and get rid of the fraction, but then we're going to have to add our fractions back together. So I think it's going to make more sense just to leave it there. So we get negative 8/3, and then if we take 9 times 14, we'll get 126/3. So adding that together, we get 118/3. So that is our 10th term in our sequence. All right, the next video we'll start talking about geometric sequences. Good luck with the rest of this section.